A work friend of mine gave me a big stack of these textbooks, and in today's video, we are going to DIY one of them as an open book for spring. To get started, I'm going to use some hot glue just on the cover and that first part of the book, the other red part, and I'm going to hot glue those two pieces together. Now I'm going to be using some of this super glue wood glue that I believe I got at the Dollar Tree, and I am going to be going between using hot glue and this super glue wood glue to adhere all of the pages down in kind of a tapered effect so that there are bumps that kind of come up and then into the middle together. I created a mixture of maybe an ounce or 2 ounces of water with the rest of that container of wood glue, and I'm going to be using a chip brush to kind of spread that glue all over in between the pages and then around the top and the bottom from the spine all the way to the edge of the book. The purpose of this is to ensure that the entire book will remain open and in this form once it is fully dry. So the wood glue, even though it is watered down, will help. It almost functions like a decoupage in this format, and it is something that I'm also covering the tops of the pages with. I want this to be fully adhered by the time it is dry. This is my first time doing a project like this, so you'll see that the pages on the side are not perfect, but I'm really not going for perfection. And honestly, when I see how it all comes out, I kind of like that the pages don't look that perfect. Just makes it more unique. I let that dry overnight, and now I'm coming in the next day and I'm using some of this beautiful soft white paint. This is a chalk paint by Dixie Belle. I believe it is buttercream, and I am going to be prepping this book for the next step in the project by giving it 2 coats of this color, both on the inside of the book and on the cover. As you see here, I also decided to paint the edges of the pages, both on the sides and then the top and bottom. As I mentioned before, the back of the book, or the cover of the book, is also painted in buttercream. Actually, I think this is raw silk, but it is honestly almost the same color. One thing I will mention is that I ended up spray sealing the cover of the book just because I was worried about some bleed through with this cover. I've had that happen to me before, and I didn't want it to happen to me with this piece. Now I'll be casting several of these beautiful creatures that are perfect for spring and using these castings to embellish my book. Here is this gorgeous masterboard that was part of Sonnet's Maker's Box. This is by Roycycle Treasures, and this is what inspired the entire project. I found 2 parts of this paper that I wanted to use on both the left and the right side as kind of my base for the rest of the decor that will be on this piece. I'm going to use DIY's Liquid Patina as my decoupage medium, and I'm going to adhere each of those pieces onto either side of the book. I am misting my paper before I lay it down just to smooth out any wrinkles. Once everything was dry, I came back in with my finger sander and very gently sanded back the excess paper all around the book. I was much more delicate and careful around the side where the pages were, where there wasn't necessarily enough of an edge for me to just go straight down with my sander. I'm painting a variety of my castings, and I'm using colors that I already had out for this project, but you can use something as simple as some of the apple barrel paint or folk art paint. You do not have to use the fancy expensive paint for a project like this. I am painting a single coat on each one of them and then coming back and painting on the second coats. They do dry rather quickly. Another thing I do want to mention, some of the things that you see painted here are not actually used in the final project. I just wasn't sure yet how everything was going to come together, so I wanted to kind of prep as many pieces as possible. For the tiny little details on the casting, I am using a very, very fine artist brush. And also in cases where I feel that that is going to be way too cumbersome, I just go in and do a dry brush. Now I'm going to be gluing on the castings that I feel worked well with the decoupage paper underneath, but didn't take away from some of the beautiful elements that are there. I just want it to be kind of cohesive, not like one is taking over the other one's beauty, if that makes sense. Now I'm going to be using some gold rub and buff to fill in all of the white pages and kind of help them be a little bit more cohesive with that decoupage paper. I believe this is Grecian gold rub and buff. That's the color that I'm using, but I do come back in with either gold leaf or European gold afterwards to lighten it up a bit. Here's a good clip of not only that two-toned effect and how I fill in the rest of those spaces that are still white, but also to give you a look at what the pages look like on the side. I am sure that other content creators have created books that are a little bit more even, not as many kind of peaks and valleys. I don't know. But I really liked the effect that this gave. It's not perfect, and I know it isn't, but I do end up liking the way that it came out. The last step is to paint the cover of the book, and I'm using Carriage House, which is a fusion all-in-one mineral paint. I also added a little bit of dark wax in between the pages just for that added effect to help it be cohesive. And here's a look at our finished project. I thought about adding like a ribbon as a bookmark in between and some other things, but I really didn't want to overdo this, especially with it being my first time, and I really felt that the embellishments that were there were just enough. Let me know what you think about this in the comments. I hope you've enjoyed today's video, and I look forward to seeing you again in the next one.